I want to see how the CBC is handling this. This must be a very dark day for them. Can you go to the CBC and let's read it together. I'm laughing in advance. Federal government's decision to invoke Emergencies Act against convoy protests was unreasonable, court rules. Government says it plans to appeal to the decision. So let's stop right there. It's not Justin Trudeau's decision. It's not Chrystia Freeland's decision. Here's how it works at the CBC. If there's good news, Trudeau did this, Freeland did that. If it's good news, it's very personal. Or liberals do this. But if it's bad news, you'll never see the word Trudeau or liberal. It's the federal government. Decision to invoke Emergencies Act against convoy protests was unreasonable. Well, it did say that, but it said a lot more than that, didn't it? It said it was illegal, unjustifiable, and unconstitutional. Isn't it funny that the CBC says, oh, just unreasonable? Yeah, it wasn't reasonable, guys. No, it was breaking the law. You government hacks. You paid for propagandists. I have to tell you again that if you need an adjective next to the word journalist, you're not a journalist. So these government journalists at the CBC state broadcaster are wicked liars. Never trust the CBC. They were the number one haters during the convoy. They were the ones who compiled the enemies list that was blacklisted and had their CBC were the running dogs, the stalking horses. They were the ones that rounded up the truckers by publishing their names that then went to have their bank accounts seized. Can you put that CBC News story up again? I want to read it. Let's scroll down a little bit. I haven't read this yet, but I know it's going to be good. A federal judge says the Liberal government's use of the Emergencies Act in early 2022 to clear convoy protesters was unreasonable and infringed on protesters' charter rights. I concluded there was no national emergency justifying the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and the decision to do so was therefore unreasonable and ultra vires, federal court Justice Richard Mosley wrote in a Tuesday decision. Ultra vires is a Latin term used by courts to refer to actions beyond the scope of the law. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland told reporters at a cabinet retreat in Montreal that the government plans to appeal the decision. Where is Trudeau? Where is that little man-coward? Why is he not owning this? Oh, I know why. He wants to push it off on Twitchy. And he wants headlines like, the federal government did something wrong. So far, I haven't seen Justin Trudeau's name in this report yet, have you? Let's keep reading. The federal court case was brought by two national groups, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and the Canadian Constitution Foundation, and two people whose bank accounts were frozen. They argued Ottawa did not meet the legal threshold when it invoked the legislation, which had never been used before. That's a good point to remember right there. Not even during 9/11 was this used. Trudeau thought that this was the worst crisis Canada has had in a generation. Was it really? Some hot tubs and bouncy castles? Thousands of protesters angry with the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, including vaccine requirements, descended on Ottawa in January of 2022 and blocked border points elsewhere. The protesters parked large vehicles on key arteries in the capital city for nearly a month and honked their horns incessantly for days. You okay? You guys okay? You heard some horns honking? I hope you're okay. The government invoked the Emergencies Act on February 14, 2022. It gave law enforcement extraordinary powers to remove and arrest protesters and gave the government the power to freeze the finances of those connected to the protest. What does that mean, connected to? The temporary emergency powers also gave authorities the ability to commandeer tow trucks to remove protesters' vehicles from the streets of the capital. By the way, let me tell you that the criminal code gives police that power too. I don't know if you know that. You don't need an Emergencies Act to commandeer a vehicle. Police can commandeer a vehicle of yours right now under the criminal code. So that's the CBC showing their lack of knowledge.